Yo, what's good, everybody? It's Rocky here, along with my guy Gav as usual. And we have a very, very, very special guest today. We have Dave Roberts in the building. How are you, man?
Yeah, I'm very good. I'm very good. Very nervous. I'm very nervous. I'm not good. I'm not used to stuff like this. So yeah, very nervous, but yeah, really looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, most of you guys know who Dave Roberts is, but for those who don't, he is the admin of the Arsenal Shirt Collectors Group over in Facebook. I'll put the link below in the bio. If you're an Arsenal shirt collector and you're not in the group, then what are you doing, man? You've got to be part of this group. Dave is such a key piece to it, and honestly, we're so honored to have you on. I say to Gav, I say to everybody who's in the group every time I see them, how much of a great figure you are to have in the community, and the way you maintain the group is just amazing. There's loads of other groups, but this is the one to be in. You know the value that it brings to us all, and literally it's like a Wikipedia for Arsenal shirts. So if anybody wants to get in it, make sure you do. I'll put it on Instagram. I'll put it all over. This is a great time to join up, where the Arsenal shirt scene is booming and it will continue to do so. But yeah, let's get right into it. So obviously, we want you to speak about your sort of story, how you came about to collect Arsenal shirts, and yeah, man, how did it all happen for you, Dave?
Well, I'm going to have to think about the size of the door because you just made my head so big that I'm not going to be able to get out the door coming out. Yeah, and it is a bit like Wikipedia because it's free. So yeah, people, it's a good analogy, definitely. So yeah, starting collecting shirts. Also, it's a long time ago. Yeah, I won't say exactly when because I'm only 22 now. I'm not really, but I think I can pinpoint where a couple of key points because I think with when you start collecting shirts, you don't know when you really start collecting them. But there's a point in your life where you realize, oh, hang on, I have got a collection. So you might get your first shirt, but you're not getting it as a collector. You're just getting a shirt. And I think my first shirt was when I was about 7 years old, and my dad he came down to work in London. But neither of my parents were from London. My dad was from the northwest. My mum was from Ireland, and they settled in London. And he worked at Highbury, so yeah, he used to work there quite a bit. And he was an Arsenal fan from years back, but he was actually an Everton fan. But he loved the Arsenal, as he always said the Arsenal. He's very particular about that, and he kind of liked Everton more than anyone else. But anywhere that Arsenal were playing up north, he would go and watch them. So he'd go and watch them at Anfield or at Goodison or Main Road or Old Trafford, just if the Arsenal were playing. So he loved them. He'd grown up knowing about the 30s team. He loved the players. He just loved everything about them. And obviously, when he came down to London and he lived in Blackstock Road, it was really important to him. And I remember collecting football cards. It was the days before Panini. And used to get these football cards with a bubble gum in them. And I think I had three Man City players, and I can't remember who they were. It might have been Dennis Stewart, Mike Summerby, and someone else. And I said to my dad, I said, Dad, I really love this kit. It was the old Man City shirt. And I said, I really love this kit. I said, can you get me a Man City kit for my birthday? Because I didn't have a kit. And he needed a kit to play school at football. And he said, he goes, no, son, you're not going to be supporting Man City. And then on my birthday, there was a kit, and it was the Bukta Arsenal kit. And it was like shorts, socks, and he bought me a pair of boots as well. And it was just, yeah, it was just unreal. And that was the moment I think I started my collection. But I don't think it was the moment I knew as a collector. I think the moment I knew as a collector was I'd been buying the shirts off and on for a couple of years. And I used to go back to Ireland quite frequently, see my cousins. And there's a guilty secret going to come out here now, and someone on the group, if not a couple of people, are going to get a reveal that they didn't know for about 40 years,
Yeah.
because some of my cousins are actually in the group. But I had a load of shirts together, and I took them over, and I was going to give them to my cousins. So there was quite a few Arsenal shirts and a couple of Celtic shirts. And I took them over, and I had them on the bed going through them when I was in Ireland. And I was about to give them. I thought, well, hang about, these are quite nice. Do I really give them all up? So I gave away my Umbro Celtic shirts, but I kept the Arsenal shirts and I brought them back to London. I think that's when I kind of really got hooked. And after that, I started buying my own shirts. I was going to a lot of away games,
Yeah.
and I think it was the '88 shirt that I bought for myself. Can even remember the packaging. It was Adidas, the glory days of Adidas. And yeah, then they just started mounting up and mounting up. And you know that bit where you're younger and you're living around different places and you're renting and you probably have a clothes rail rather than furniture. And I could see that my clothes were getting reduced and there was more and more shirts that were hanging on there. And every time I moved, it was becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. And I knew I was hooked. And then you stop for a while because other things get more important. You know, you're going out with your mates or you're going on a holiday, but then I kept coming back to it. So about 3 or 4 years, I come back to it again, and then I come back to it again, and I just couldn't shake it. Always still going to the games, but yeah, but not necessarily collecting all the shirts. And then you get to that point where you think, oh, I've got to buy the shirts that I hadn't bought in between when I'd stopped collecting. And I've just done that for I don't know how many years now.
Yeah.
And I've just always loved it. There's not one shirt that I don't love. I love every single one of them. I've got a few that are favourites, but there's not one that I don't like for one reason or another. So yeah, just been hooked for absolutely years, and and I mean the funny thing is, as you can see now, I don't tend to wear them.
Mm.
I've never. It's very rare that I'll actually wear a shirt to a game. I do occasionally. There's a couple of ones, but had my fingers burnt over the years where, well, not my fingers burnt. I've actually had the shirts burnt, but in the old days of standing in the terraces and
Yeah.
and people having a crafty fag, I had a few too many that were spoiled, and I kind of then just stopped wearing them. Really, I didn't tend to, and the days when I was going away games, you didn't tend to wear your colours too much because of what you were walking into. So you didn't tend to wear your colours as much, and but it's lovely now to see so many of those shirts coming back and being worn all the time as well. And I think football's changed a little bit as well. You know, it's not quite the same as it was in the days where I was travelling, home and away. All I did, that was my whole life. It was every bit of my salary went on just following Arsenal around the country or in Europe. Lucky enough to be, travelling around in the 90s and going to finals and things like that. So yeah, it's just never gone away. It's that love of Arsenal that you start with and you end with as well. But yeah, it's always been the shirts that have kind of kept me going, that I really love.
Yeah. No, that's really amazing, man. I think the key thing for me when in that was the way you spoke about how you love every single shirt. And I remember when you came down to the pop-up as well, the first one at the Tollington, um, we were speaking about the away shirt because it was quite fresh at the time, and you were saying
Yeah,
how everybody has like a strong opinion on it. And I was at the time as well, I was a bit like taken back from it. But then you see the players wear it and everything like that, and you really sort of grow a fondness to it. And that's sort of my mentality as well. There's not one sort of shirt that I don't love, because you see the players we all adore wear them, and it's the club we support. And no matter
yeah.
what sponsor we've got or type of crest we've got, at the end of the day we love it because it's the Arsenal. So
Yeah, I mean that's a really good example of it because there's similar sort of feelings in '93 with the bruised banana. I mean, there was absolute uproar, and you'll see in the programs here. I keep all the programs because pre-digital age, that's the only record you had of a lot of stuff. And you see some of the letters into the program ages ago about people complaining, why are we wearing yellow? So it's opinions and things change over the years and people have different views and stuff. And I don't kind of stick with one particular era. I just love all of them. And yeah, the bruised banana was just like people just were so upset by it. And then when I saw this one and I'd heard a bit about it beforehand from the club, and we were going to try and do a little bit of a reveal on it beforehand, but we ran out of time. But it was just the thought process that had gone into it. I mean, I like any shirt that stands out, and I like a shirt that's got a story. And for me, it certainly did stand out. And I would just thought, I know we got United like second or third last game of the season away, and if suddenly you get a Viltor moment, in
yeah,
that,
yeah,
yeah, or an Overmars moment in that, then suddenly everything suddenly changes, doesn't it? And that shirt
yeah,
becomes iconic. So yeah, I just love it, and I love the fact that so many people did kind of get behind it. And I know it's garish, but there is a story. There's a story about Islington, and it's the border of Islington, and I think that's just important sometimes, that we do push the boundaries. Arsenal always have. They've pushed the boundaries and everything. If you look at who was the first to do things, it's always been us. We were the first on telly. We were the first on radio. We were the first with undersoil heating. There's so many firsts that have come out of Arsenal, and we've never been afraid to mix things up and change things. And I just think that, especially with shirt design as well, we've never been afraid to do that as well. We've got the classic look, and we are definitely the Arsenal, but we've never been afraid to change things. We've never been afraid to sort of step away from what everybody else does, and I love that in my club. I just feel that's really important, because you never push boundaries, you never get anywhere. You're always stuck within the same four walls. So yeah, I absolutely love it. I actually do like the look of it, to be honest. I just think if I was a player, and don't get me wrong, I'm not much of a player, but it's just to have that peripheral vision of seeing the shirt. I think it does make a difference. And if it, I know that a lot of the coaches do sometimes have views on what they are wearing. And there's the famous game with Ferguson, when he took at half time, he took them out the grey shirts because they couldn't see each other. It was a grey day, and they just couldn't. And I just think to be able to see someone out the side of your eye, it just that little fractional marginal gain can sometimes be an advantage. And I think with those shirts, I think they really do stand out. And I think the players are probably quite keen to wear them.
Yeah, yeah, and that's so true, man. It's the history, tradition, and class of Arsenal. I think we've always been that revolutionary club. You look back in the 02-03 season, even when Wenger outfielded, was it 9 black players? Was it 9 in total? So we've always been that club, and it's actually Black History Month now, isn't it? So yeah, it's timely. So yeah, it's really, really cool. And as you say, the kit is it's unique, but I really enjoy it.
I mean, that's a good point as well, because that is just another thing about I was born in North London, grew up in North London, moved to East London a few times as well, but it's always been my club, and through thick and thin. And the mates that I used to go to and travel away with, that's a big part of the story as well. And we've never been afraid to do that. I remember as a younger fan as well, our club was always just that slightly different to every other club in terms of what we sang and what we did, or how we behaved, and who was in the pubs and who was on the terraces with you. And I just think, yeah, we've always just been that slightly bit different to everybody else, and that's why a lot of people love us and maybe not some other clubs. And I'm immensely proud of that as well, because I'm an adopted Londoner. My dad was an adopted Londoner. My mum's an adopted Londoner. They all worked in London, and all worked around that area, and served the area very, very, very well. You've got to make people feel comfortable, and I think that thing about having the 9 black players at that time, we got a lot of stick for that as well. It was a beautiful shirt as well, by the way. That 3 away shirt. It was an absolutely beautiful shirt, but we got a lot of stick for that. And we always get we get a lot of stick for everything, don't we? But it's hugely important. And I think that we're coming back to the shirt bit, where we weave some of our history into the shirts, and it might not always be totally obvious. I mean, you're both wearing 2 shirts now that have got a big story behind them. Rocky, with yours with the green and the blue colours, that's an important one to me, with the 82, 83, and the green and the blue. They always said blue and green should never be seen unless there's something in between. So there were colours that you just never used. So that was a really important one. And Gav, with your shirt as well, with the not always strictly correct story around the origins of our shirt, but that's great. I love it. Every single shirt always has something in it, or it has a reference to a previous shirt. And I love joining the dots between them and getting different ones together from different eras and different manufacturers, and just seeing what the inspiration is. I mean, we see a lot of that now with the Adidas stuff going back to to Drake's designs. I mean, that's absolutely fascinating seeing that, and I know we all follow him on Instagram. yeah, it's fascinating seeing what he did and how he's influenced even the modern day shirt. So yeah, I love it. There's always a continuity, and you look at some clubs and you just think, where did that come from? You know,
Yeah,
where, you know, with ours there is always something there. There's a path that we're always following, which is great to see.
yeah, that's amazing. Gav, did you want to add to that, man?
There's not much to add. That's just amazing. I was literally engrossed in the story, man. It's
Yeah,
amazing. But yeah, no, I mean, Rocky, you made a good point to me because, like, recently with the away shirt, like, you're still trying to like convince me like to like it, but I completely understand what you're saying because later on down the line, if we ended up winning, say, the Champions League or the Premier League as the last shirt we wore before the last game sort of thing, an FA Cup final, anything like that, it can suddenly change your perspective, and that's just the beauty of what shirts can do to you. So I think, yeah, as you go along, you have more of Dave's perspective, and you start to realize, yeah, every shirt is just as good as the other. Yeah, the design might be different, but it can have attached so many memories, and there's no point judging it too early. Even yeah, and I agree with what you say as well, Dave. The actual design itself sticks out a lot, and players can see each other more. So yeah, there's so many different levels to it. But yeah, your story is amazing, man. I was literally just sat. I couldn't. There's nothing I even wanted to add to it. I was just like, this is amazing. But yeah, no, it's a fascinating story. And like you say, everyone. I think that's a really good thing as well. The way that, like you said, you're an adopted Londoner, but then you more or less were a Londoner. But there's so many people out there that have different background stories where they're from. But I feel like Arsenal as a club again are always above everyone else when it comes to letting people be part of that. If that makes sense. Like, I'm not originally from London, but no one cares. Do you know what I mean? It's all like what your story and your journey, and where as a club, you see like a lot of Man United fans, they get a lot of stick. Oh yeah, none of you are from Manchester. There's just a different vibe completely. Everyone here is a real community, and yeah, you might not have complete origins at London, but no one sort of gives you anything for it.
Yes,
We're
I mean,
just so open.
it's interesting because what is that hook that gets someone into a club, and sometimes it could be. I mean, actually, one of the things with my dad was the white sleeves. And that was one of the things, and he remembers the those white sleeves, and it was so unique at that time to have something so different, and he just loved them. He just thought, and again, that was a way of standing out slightly as well, for the players. But everyone has a bit of a different hook into why do they feel that they are part of that club. And I think the word club's really important because it is a club, and it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter how many games you go. So I mean, we all have other teams that we kind of like as well. And I've always had a bit of an affinity to Sampdoria because certain players went there. Liam Brady went there. I've seen them play a couple of times, but I'm not from there. It's just I've got an affinity to it. But I think it's just so important that, and there always has been an affinity to Arsenal globally. I mean, yes, it spreads to the tours, but going back to, I was over in Copenhagen for the Cup Winners' Cup final, and you look on our group, how many Danish fans we've got. I mean, well, Scandinavian full stop. We've always had that appeal. We had players, join us ages ago that from, we had Vladimir Petrovic, we had all these players. We've always done things slightly differently. So I think that affinity and what hooks you in, I think is unique for every single person. There's always a different story that everybody's got to tell. Some of it might be around. It might just be the kit. I've got a mate who's from a family of 12. They're all Spurs, but someone gave him a QPR mug for Christmas, so he's QPR. I bet you wish you'd never had the mug, but there you go. But these things just happen. You do get that affinity to the club, and I think the shirt thing then kind of just embeds it. Then, don't you? You get that identity, and you see other people around with the shirts on. I've got a theory as well that anywhere you go, if you go on holiday, and this is definitely prevalent at the moment, anywhere you go on holiday, the first football shirt you will see anywhere will always be an Arsenal shirt. 9 out of 10 times.
Yeah,
anywhere
it's funny.
it just happens
I
all the time.
experienced that in the summer. I went to Cyprus, where I'm from, well, my family's from, and I saw the 2020 to 21 home shirt, and I was like, wow, like we are massive. Like we're a huge club. everybody
You
knows.
got the cinema. You go and sit in Nando's. You go to Amsterdam. Anywhere. I guarantee you will see an Arsenal shirt. It might not be the first one, but you'll definitely see one. And it's that kind of pride in wearing it. I mean, how many times you're sort of driving along and you see someone with an Arsenal shirt and toot them on the horn or give them a wave and things like that. I just think it's that club thing, isn't it? People are proud to wear our shirt. It's just it's an identity. You know, you're going to meet someone else. You're going to walk into a bar and someone else is going to recognize that. Or if you're wearing, or if I know that I do. If I see someone wearing a shirt, I'll always go up and speak to them. I always say, "Oh, nice shirt, by the way."
We spoke about this, Gav. You said something about this the other day, didn't you, Gav, on WhatsApp to me? What was it again? After the game, the Chelsea game, he came out.
Oh God, I can't remember. Yes, sorry, yeah, literally. Like I say, I'm not in London, which is mad. So I needed to go and get some milk. The typical, I forgot to do it in the morning. So I went to the shop after the match. Literally left my house, turn right, and like 10 seconds out of coming in the house, the first person I see is someone in an Arsenal shirt, and it was just like you say, it was that little. We didn't say anything, just a little nod, and that was it. Do you know what I mean? It was one of them. But I was just thinking of all things to happen, and my road tends to be quite quiet that time of night, and just no one else on the other side of the road, just literally one person with an Arsenal shirt. I think it was the 2010 shirt he had on, but yeah, it was just a little home shirt, little nod, and that's it. That's all you had to do. Do you know what I mean? It's it's like, you know, when you get people who have the same car. Like my best friend used to have like a Toyota MR2, the little sports car ones.
Flash
they don't
get
them. Yeah, then if we go past them, they go the other way. It'd just be a little nod, you know, out of the window, and that was it. But it's the same sort of thing. But it's so good because there is a real genuine feel to it. Where, like I touch back again, I'm not trying to single out Man United fans, but you know, it's that if they passed each other in the street, I just don't feel it would be the same thing. Like even when Rocky, when I came to see you at the last pop-up, like the next day we were just sort of walking around, you know, near the Tolly, just near the Emirates, etc. And the amount of people, like we were both had shirts on, just like on their bikes going past, going red and white, you know, just whatever, just like shouting stuff at us, and it's just such a feel good factor. Like, it's you can't explain unless you experience it, can you? But it's
it's nice amazing. It's nice when you're winning. I guess the challenge is when
definitely helps.
The challenge is when you're not. But but there you go. Let's make hay while the sun shines.
Yeah,
that's cool. Dave, I wanted to ask you about your current collection. Are you still adding to your collection avidly, or?
Yeah, well, I add new, so I'll always add new, and because you know you never get to the end, do you, with Arsenal shirt collections? So I'll always add new, and I'm always scouring for old as well. I would say because I've got quite a lot, I've tended to kind of go for kit. So you know, it's then trying to make the full kit. So too many pairs of socks that I don't even want to mention, and too many pairs of shorts. But just trying to get the ones that are missing. But yeah, it slows down massively. And then also when you've got stuff, then it's not stuff you necessarily want to sell. It's more around trying to find stuff to swap. Because when I started collecting, there wasn't many collectors really at the time, or if there were, because there was no social media, you didn't really know that well. So kind of eBay was your focal point, because then that's how you get to know people. And I was lucky enough to have quite a bit of kit, and realise the potential of it as well. A bit like you have, Rocky. But that was how you made contact with people. But you didn't really have, you know, groups and stuff like this. It was very early days. And then the collectors as well. It was a bit of a different vibe as well. And one of the reasons why I run the group how I do, it's quite competitive, and it was a bit cutthroat, maybe a bit too much and a bit misleading. So they're probably some of the memories that stuck in my head of when they started like trying to kind of move the group forward a little bit around the direction I wanted it to go. Now it's obviously it's very different, but getting back to your question, it's harder because you know, if I've got a particular shirt and you could sell it for whatever amount of money, yeah, great to have the money, but then you're not going to get the other shirt that you want. And sometimes you find that people will swap things, or so that might be more important to them. So I'd say with the more, well, the higher end ones, other than giving them away for absolutely nothing, which I've been doing over recently with the charity auctions, I've tended to look for other people who have got shirts that I would like, and then we will trade around. But the group takes up quite a bit of my time, so I've kind of not adding a great deal at the moment. It's not been just the newer stuff, and I'll always buy the new stuff, but it's certainly a lot more selective, because I think when you start collecting, it's just buy, and then you edit, and then you realize, hang on, I want to change some stuff, and then you start sell, and constantly swapping it around. And because I don't wear, and because I focus more on the match worn stuff, I'm not fussed about size. I'm not fussed about anything like that. That's not a big deal to me. It's more just getting the shirt, and the shirts that I want are, they are very few and far between. So the likelihood of them coming up, although I never give up, is rare. So now I think, well, I've kind of built most of my collection. My job now really is to kind of help everybody else. It's not for me just to, because even on the group, I see shirts I see the post come up, and if I was in a selfish way, I could just buy all the stuff myself, because they're not posted it. But I'm not. That's not why I'm there. I'm there to I just want to kind of guide a bit people and just make sure they're not getting ripped off, and maybe take some of those things that I wasn't so keen on around maybe the bit of misleading that was going on a little bit, or maybe some of the the competitiveness. I just kind of, you don't need to do that, because getting back to my dad was a collector, but he wasn't of football shirts. He collected this is a funny one, but he collected airmail, and it wasn't just stamps, but it was airmail of stuff that had traveled around the world. And he spent years doing it, but there was no continuity in it, because there was no groups to do it. There was nothing to share it with. There was no, it was never going to live on. And those bits of collecting, like stamp collecting, they're a bit on the way out. Whereas with the football shirts, I wanted to keep it going. I wanted to keep my collection alive. I wanted to introduce more people to it. I wanted to, make it not have too tight boundaries on it. So you'll see in the group, there's a lot of different ways of collecting, and everyone's got a different way on how they collect. Some, I love watching it. I love seeing the way that some people do it by player. Some people would tell a story around particular players or particular types of shirt. And I'm a firm believer that if you've got two shirts, you've got a collection. The direction might change, but you have got a collection, and you've got something to tell. So it was just trying to get it a bit broader around the club, and getting people involved in it, and appreciating it, and not just being about just the football and just the results, but being more about the kind of the continuity of Arsenal, because I've loved Arsenal through some pretty rotten times, I can tell you. I've stood and sat in that stadium where there's been not many people in there for certain games, and you still love them. You still get behind the team. You still, and it's a bit like that with the shirts. I always say about, form is temporary, but polyester is permanent, and that's really key to me, because that never goes away. The club never goes away. Sometimes you go through bad times, sometimes you have good times, but for me, I can only appreciate the good times, because there's been some really bad times as well. So and the shirts, all of those shirts still count. Even the players that sometimes people get a bit miffed that when I don't like people going on about certain players, but what one person might regard as a player that isn't worthy of the shirt, someone else might think is a hero, or someone else is a snake. Someone else might not think is a snake, and I just think it's so subjective that just don't pass judgment on it. We've got some ex-players in the group as well, and I see them get criticised on other groups, and I just think that's not fair. I certainly would have to play for Arsenal. So if you've achieved that, then you're a pretty good footballer. You'll still probably be able to turn it on a five-a-side, and even now. So those things are really important to me. Is just making it kind of positive, and making it kind of not about the results or who's playing in the team. One of my favourite players is Emmanuel Eboué. So
Yeah,
make,
yeah.
make that,
No, I
make
loved
that
it.
what you want. I just love the
Amazing.
guy. He used to live around the corner from me. He used to invite everyone round there for barbecues around his house. He was just the nicest guy in the world. He had some really hard times, and but he loved that club, and he really made me laugh.
That's amazing. No, this is the one thing I say to Gav and everybody else who I talk to who's from the group, like Simon and Is Yours Gold / John Hayden. It's the way you moderate the group is just amazing. And going back to, how you started off with your collection and communicating via eBay and the inbox messages, etc. The way you do it now and again, the way you moderate it embodies the club's values. You know what I mean? It's the tradition, and remember who you are and what you are and what you represent, and that's what you do so well, Dave. And I think that's why we have so much respect.
Not always popular, and I do know that, because some of the rules and the framework we put in are not always going to be popular, I do realise that. But the group's run for the 3,500 people, not for the one person who wants to do things in a different way. And sometimes you've got to stand up to people and not allow certain things to happen, because I don't want people getting ripped off. I don't want people getting misled. I don't want I just want it to be I want it to be done the right way. And with the group as well, it's always changing. It sounds really sad, but every year I write a set of objectives of what I want to achieve, to move it on, to progress it. And it's not just about numbers, because at the moment we're turning down more people than we're admitting, because I just don't want people just to join the group and make a quick buck and then leave. It is what it says on the tin. It's Arsenal shirt collectors. It's for people to learn and swap and trade safely and build a sense of community. It's not just just make a quick buck out of it. And I'm really protective about that. So every year I do try and change. The first couple of years was all about trying to build the guides up and getting the information and getting the pictures, building the numbers up, but the right people, not just anybody. Making it a private group. And then it's changed every year. So I did a bit around the mix and how we did it. I wanted it to be really inclusive, because funnily enough, not every Arsenal supporter is the same age, the same colour, and from the same place. Where when I get the numbers in the back of the of the group that says where we come from, we've got countries from A to Z, literally from Australia, Argentina to Zambia. We've got 3,500 people. We've got a massive mix of age groups within it. We've got a lot more different types of people joining now. It's not just males. It's not just white males anymore. So it's important that people feel comfortable to be able to tell their story, because I want it to be for all. I don't just want it to be. I'm on some of the other groups, and I see what happens, and sometimes I want to pull my hair out, but I've got no hair. So I can't do that. So the objectives are always around trying to just make it inclusive. It doesn't matter how you support Arsenal, what you are, where you're from, doesn't matter. You're part of a club, you're part of a bigger group, part of a community. And I think that is working. Every year I look at and think, did I hit the objectives? Did I move it forward? Not always hit everything, but sometimes did you move it forward? Did you get better education on there? Did you get better knowledge? I see lots of our members going on to other groups and educating people about stuff and giving advice, etc. Which is fantastic to see. I see more and more people saying up, inviting their friends to come and join the group, because they think it's a good group to be in. So every year I think I've got on my fourth set of objectives now. The things around the program, getting exposure in the program, being involved with the charity. All of these things were really important. They were part of a plan at the beginning of the year, so that at the end of the year we can see have we made progress, because I think it benefits everybody if you do have a plan, you do have a vision, you do know what you want that group to be, because I see a lot of groups where it just falls off a cliff and it just gets dominated by one or two people who shout the loudest, and then it just gets taken over, and the other people don't want to talk, they don't want to say anything, don't want to share posts. And I don't want that. I want everybody to have a voice if they want to have one.
100%.
So Dave, I wanted to ask you, I mean, me and Rocky are always talking about obviously the Arsenal community, but also the local side of things as well. I remember Rocky in the past has said he used to do music as a hobby, stuff like that. And there's always a lot going on to try and push kids in the right direction. And obviously with the No More Red that came out in the last year or so, that's been a really positive change. And I know from speaking to Rocky, and obviously I know a little bit about it myself, but I know that you're involved with it as well. You're trying to do something at the moment with fundraising. So I just wanted to sort of talk on that, and so everyone knows what you're doing with it.
Yeah, so I think when I saw it is a really good question, because it's probably the thing that's made me tick the most over the past couple of years, and it makes me tick for quite a few reasons, because it is about local charities, but that is also a way that you get an affinity to a club, because when you get to know Arsenal, you've got to understand the bits around it. You've got to understand that fuller story. And I think that when you understand the fabric of the club and what they are and what they stand for and where they are, I think you understand them better. And I think it gives you a better appreciation of what we're all about. And I know it's in Islington, and you might not live in Islington, but there's no harm in getting to know what that area is all about, because it will make you understand the history a bit better. It's the same way with lots of clubs. You think about Celtic in 1967; all the players were born within like a couple of miles of the ground, and you just feel a bond because it's what it's what your club stands for. So when No More Red started, it resonated for a number of reasons. A, because it was the local charities, and I've got a lad, and I've got a daughter, and they are of that age, or they certainly are when it started, that were being impacted by the horror stories we were hearing on the news about stabbings, about postcode wars, about county lines. All of this is going on. It's very real. It's not something that's detached from people, and it doesn't matter what part of London you live or what part of the country you live. It can impact you. It's really important. So, and I remember as a kid growing up in North London, and it was a fine line between what you were going to do and what direction you were going to go. And if you had, I had sport, and it was important to me. I used to play rugby, and it was a big part of my life, and that probably kept me out of probably a bit more trouble than that I felt that I was kind of heading towards. I wasn't doing particularly well at school. I was getting in quite a bit of trouble, and I could see that how easy it was to get exposed to these things and get involved. And then luckily I started working, and my work took over. So I didn't go down that path, but I knew people who did, and it was frightening, some of the things that happened. And then you come back to it when you're older, and then you've got kids, and then you suddenly start seeing the same thing, and you've got that awareness of what goes on, and you can't trick a tricker. When I always say that to my son, is that he sees the things that and I always tell him the things that I did, because I want him to avoid some of the the pitfalls that himself, and learn from my mistakes. So the whole thing's really hugely important to me. The overall objective is massively important. Even more so where I've got, where you've had friends who've been impacted, not necessarily in London, but I had a friend in Birmingham who lost somebody because of knife crime, that very, very close to me, and the impact of that and the whole family and the community. So it's massive. So when I saw the No More Red shirts come up, and I read the bit, I like the shirt. It was okay. But what they were trying to do was hugely important to me. It's like the objective of it and the way that it were doing it, and the Arsenal and the community, and just trying to work with people and to get people involved. So, I'm a shirt collector, and I wanted the shirt, but I wanted to earn the shirt. I didn't want to just go out and buy one. I wanted to earn it, and I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to be part of what that program was about. And that's why I've done the fundraising, because I wanted all of us to get involved in it. I wanted all of us to contribute, even if it was just £2. At least you knew you were putting something back in. So when a charity reached out to me via a member of the group to say, would you want to work with them? It was an absolute yes. I subsequently found out it was the charity who it was, and it was Copenhagen Youth Project. Islington's a massive part of my life. It's unbelievably so with regards to, you know, my mum met a dad in Islington at a dance hall. There's so many times where Islington always comes back in. Although I don't live there at the moment, it's always come back into my life. It's always been where I used to go, where I used to travel to. Going to the football was always part of my life. It was everything to me, you know, and all different parts of it, you know. Holloway, everywhere around there, Finsbury Park. It's always been everything that I used to do. Used to go bowling, used to go to clubs. So massively important to me. So when the chance came up, and then it was the Copenhagen Youth Project. It had to be a yes, and it was just something that was just so more important than maybe swapping one of those shirts that I gave up to get another shirt. I just felt that this was going to make me feel better. So you know, when you get involved deeply with a charity, you do feel good. You do feel, you know, it does give you a sense of direction, and you know, I have felt that. But then I went down to meet Steve and Theo and spent some time with them and talking through it, and especially finding out Steve's story about why he set the charity up and what his story was, because he was a boxer. And he was also a decent footballer, and he ended up doing neither. And he gave it up to work with homeless youth in Hertfordshire, actually, first of all, before he then moved back into Copenhagen Street. But then, you know, you know people from around there. I know people have got very, you know, that part of the world to them was very important. They grew up there. People who are very close to me who grew up around there, they were there every Sunday. Someone who's very close to me was there every single Sunday, and that area's always needed a little bit of love. It's always needed, you know, people to look after them. Finding out the story about what they do and what they have to face into, they're on a border of a postcodes, and you know, it's hard. It's a challenging. These are challenging stories that they have to live with. But the positivity of it and what they do and what they did around the football, and they have done for years. I've had some very successful footballers come out of there, and they you know, you go in and see their trophy cabinet, it's full. I mean, it's falling off the shelves. There's so many of them. But this movement towards music was really important for me. Like I said, I spent a lot of time at football when I was younger, and when I did have a bit of money, I spent everything going away, and everything was about football. Everything was about fashion. I also collect Adidas trainers, and I was into my clothes, and everything was about music. You know, that was my life. That was absolutely everything. I didn't care about anything else at all. I was just interested in that. And those things are still really important to me now. I still go to a lot of gigs, still buy too many pairs of trainers. And you know, I still like going out and doing stuff. So when they said about the No More Red music, it just really hit a nerve with me. I just thought it's just such an important thing to do, because not everyone's into football. You know, I watch football and I played rugby. You know, but I couldn't play football and I wouldn't watch rugby. So everyone has something different, and my musical expertise, I couldn't even play the recorder. In fact, I'm pretty rubbish on the triangle even. I've got no musical ability whatsoever, but I love my music. So some tapping into people, giving them something else, other, you know, that gives them something to focus on, for me was massive. And that's why I've met a few of the other charities as well. I met a few of the guys a couple of weeks back at an Adidas function, and I was speaking to them and finding out about, you know, what they're doing. But it felt like they needed us, because they didn't, you know, they've got people on the ground, but they needed support in another way, and it felt like the support we could give them was the right kind of support. So that's why I thought we'll do a partnership first of all. There was an initial amount of money, but we absolutely walloped that, and we're going to keep going. You know, I'm saying that we're going to do this for at least, you know, it was going to be a full season that I wanted to do it, and it's gone tremendously well. We've got an event coming up soon at the club where they're going to celebrate what we have done as a group. But it doesn't stop. You know, charities they're like puppies at Christmas. They're not just for Christmas. You're always with them. They always need the support. When you go in there and you see that the guys giving up their time to support young people and give them an alternative, I just think it's massively important. People in there painting, decorating, doing finances, answering calls, running football teams. You know, it's very humbling, really, because I come from a corporate world of, of commercial, and that's what I do for a living. I do like commercial strategy, so it's very different, to the world that I live in or live in now. But it was the world that I did live in, and I just think we've got to give back. And I think as a group, we've got to give back. It's not just about having that shirt. If you're going to pay 300 quid for it, pay 305 quid for it and give the fiver and make that difference with it, because it does make such a massive difference. So No More Red's going to keep going. It's not just a one-off thing. It's going to be going for a couple of years. It's part of the fabric of the club. It's won many awards for what it is doing and the objectives and what it's done so far. It's only just the start of it, so it's going to keep building and building and building. I want to keep the integrity of the program. I want to make sure that we do focus on earning the shirts and getting people involved in earning the shirts and sharing their story of what they did, because that's what it's all about. So yeah, it's really close, really close to my heart, because the area that it's in, what they're trying to do and who they're trying to help. And this is not going to go away. We're going to keep doing it and keep doing it.
Yeah, no, that's amazing, Dave. And
yeah,
I totally relate to it. I myself, literally Holloway, born and bred. I've lived literally in the same street all my life. So I know what it's like. There's so many different paths you can go down. I know friends of mine who went down the wrong road and the wrong path and ended up either being a possible victim to knife crime or being the the person with the knife. And it's just really sad. And it's so important that we have these sort of charities to divert people from going down these paths. And I myself went to a youth club as well, every single day after school. And I understand the importance of just making music and being in a circle where you have older people around you who give you that direction, give you something to do, and keep you busy away from the trouble and off the street, so to speak. So yeah, this cause and doing it all through the shirts is amazing. And it's crazy because for me it's like it's all coming full circle, coming from a place where I used to do music, as Gav said. And I went back to my local youth club last week. It's on Hornsey Road. It's where the baths used to be. I don't know if you know where it is, opposite the petrol station. And it's so sad because the council cut the funding for it. And I went to the music studio and it was sort of like it was empty, and they've changed it into like a drama school that people have to pay privately to go through. And so having a charity in Islington, like the Copenhagen Youth Project, is just amazing to see. I believe
there's a lot of talented kids around there,
Yeah.
and you're not decided by your postcode. I think that's one thing that life has taught me. It doesn't matter what postcode you were born in.
Yeah.
Excuse me. There's a hell of a lot of talent around there, and it's just giving those people a chance. I think the club reflects that. If you go to the youth games, if you ever get a chance to go to the under-18 games, they're now starting to do them at the Emirates, and you see a completely different mix of people at that game because they're friends of the players. There's a lot of talent. There's a lot of talented young people that go to those games, and they're also nutty gooners, and they're all big Arsenal fans, and they're proud of their club, and they know the story of the club. And I just think it's important that we as a club embed ourselves into the area. We embed ourselves everywhere. But let's not forget about the local area, because in these days of like global corporate, businesses and everything else, we're still there. We still are in that area, and it's still massively important to us. And there's still people who work in the stadium on a Tuesday night and get home late at night because they live around there. Rocky, I know you worked at the club. There's a lot of local young people who work there and are brilliant. If you ever go into, I've been at the club level once or twice, and it's just brilliant. It's outstanding. It's an area to be proud of. Doesn't matter what postcode it's in. We're as good as, if not better than anywhere else.
That's it. But yeah, unbelievable, Dave. I just wanted to say a massive thank you for coming on and The value you've even provided in today's podcast is amazing. So I just wanted to round it up and say a massive thanks, man. It's been a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah.
Good. Sorry I didn't talk too much about shirts.
No. We
No,
spoke
man.
about it, and I'm sure everybody will take something, even if it's so small, away about the shirts or about the charity. Yeah, and I'm sure eventually down the road, if you wanted to come back on, you're always welcome. I'm sure we'll try and get it going.
Definitely be back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely. Well, thanks for letting me come on and chat. It's been really good. It's really enjoyable.
No, it's a pleasure, man. That bit there about the charity and the community is so true, and I want everybody to take it away with them, and that's why I wanted to finish so strong on that note. And yes, it's been amazing. And I just wanted to say to everyone as well, again, if you're not in the group, make sure you put a request in, try join up, try and see what the group can offer and what you can offer to the group. I'm sure there are things we may not know and that you want to input in, and that's it really. But yeah, thank you, Dave, for coming on.
Brilliant. Thanks, guys.
And Gav as well, man. Thank you for.
Cheers, Gav. Cheers, Rocky.
Absolute pleasure.
Cheers. Thank you, Dave.
Cool. Thank you, everyone.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.